Joining us this morning is Superintendent of County Schools, Area City Schools, Kent Houston. Kent and I have been in contact with each other, what, the last 10 days or so with this weather, and you very kindly let me know you're going to have school or not, and you had to close in, what, 5-6 days?
We've been out 7.
Has it been 7 now?
Yeah.
Came across that the governor wants to try to expand the days off. Any updates on that, Kent?
Well, I figured that would be one of the questions on January 29th, which was, what's it, 30th? All these days are running together
Wednesday,
now.
yeah.
So, yeah, on Wednesday, the House okayed that, the new snow bill legislation, so it's got to go through the Senate. Passed, there was only 2 negative votes, and what they're talking about doing is expanding calamity days from 5 to 8. So we'll see where that goes.
And then you'd only get 1 then, right?
I would have 1 additional one left.
That's just this year.
For this year only.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
So there is some relief. It's interesting when not to be sarcastic, but when the Columbus City schools and the Columbus area schools go over their 5-day calamity limit, everybody gets up in arms and their action gets taken. When you're just in Northeast Ohio, down in Columbus, they say, you live in Northeast Ohio, what do you expect? Well,
that's basically what the commissioner was saying.
Sure.
In another angle. Now, I know there was a story in the paper this morning, and you had told me about it also. Your concern about testing that's coming up.
Yeah, well, without being in the classroom consistently, it makes you nervous. Are your kids going to be prepared? Because they put this high stakes testing. Testing's coming up for all the parents and kids. The Ohio Achievement Test, which is grades 3 through 8. That window of testing begins April 21st, ends May 9th. The Ohio Graduation Test, which is high school, begins March 10th. So you're talking only February and a week in March. We've only got 5, maybe 5.5 weeks to be ready for this, and we haven't been in school consistently. So you hate to say the tests play a big part, but the way the legislation grades the schools and forces the schools, mandates them to do this testing, you've got to be cognizant of the fact that they got to be in the classroom to learn.
With this situation, Kent, we're not out of the woods yet with this. I mean, we're talking some miserable weather possibly next week. And your concern to me when we talked on the phone was the kids being safe and out of that extra cold. I don't think snow really played a factor, did it?
We have had probably 1 out of 7 that was snow this year, and I'm starting to, the days are running together.
I know,
it was one of the earlier ones.
Right.
Real early in the fall, we didn't have power.
We had November, we actually had snow.
And I think we had 1 for snow, and then the rest have been wind chill, and I go about handling those slightly different.
Right.
The protocol and what we do and the steps we go through. With snow, my day usually starts around 4:30 in the morning, which snow days, calamity days are miserable. The staff and the students, I gotta imagine, love them.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's about a 4:30 start. Talking with the bus garage, what are the roads like? Can the buses pass past the side roads, the country roads? Talk to police dispatch, and they contact the snow plows for me and say, hey, what kind of conditions are the roads in? Are they salted? Can we be ready to go at this time? If not, what's the probability of going a 2-hour delay? Can they be ready at that time? So we go through that type of protocol. Wind chill, all the superintendents have a chart kind of like this that shows you the temperature across the top, the wind speed down the side, and the exposure to a child's skin out in that wind chill. It tells you how long they can be out there and still safe. So most of our kids maybe wait 15-20 minutes at a bus stop, or have a walk that's no more than 15-20 minutes, or give or take a few. I'm not exact. So normally that temperature, you start getting nervous when it gets between about -8 and -10 below, because that's telling you, the kids, anything more than 30 minutes out there is dangerous.
Right.
And you don't want somebody getting stuck out in the wind chill for more than 30 minutes. So then you start thinking about 2-hour delay when it's in those -8s, -10s. And when it gets below -10 or 12, then you start thinking, how long is this going to last? And is a 2-hour delay, will the temperature even rise enough to get the kids to school safely. Then you start talking about taking a claim.
It's a tough call, isn't it? It's tough.
Well, let's see. I've been called many wonderful names over the last couple of weeks
can
about
imagine.
parents that are
About that.
I
upset.
can imagine. Jeez.
And what you'll find interesting is, I would say it's about 60% are mad when I have school, and about 40% of them are mad when I don't have school.
I've heard that.
That we used to have school in this weather. You know, they also used to walk uphill both ways in the winter. I heard them say, but you just take school off willy-nilly. So it doesn't matter which way I go. Sometimes I get it from either side.
Situation here.
The thing that I was asked the other day to ask you, because they knew you were coming on, was you take the 2-hour delay. That still is considered a full day?
Yes.
Okay, so you can get away with that.
Ohio operating standards say a high school has to be in session for 5, an elementary school in for 5.5 hours a day to count as a full day.
Okay.
So the 2-hour delay puts us at 5.5, perfectly for instructional time with our elementaries and high school. That's why most schools in Ohio implement a 2-hour delay.
Do those work? I mean, can the teachers operate okay during that?
We have adjusted schedules, but we like to focus on reading, math, social studies, and science as if at all possible, and some other things get squeezed. But I think every minute that you can increase instructional time is important in a child's career. So
Right.
I want them having contact time with the teachers. That's that's what we're here for. We're here to
Right.
educate children. So the only way that happens is if they are one-on-one in a classroom with the teacher.
You know, another subject I wanted to broach while you're here, because it's been a while since you and I sat down and talked in an interview, but this football situation, there was a story in the paper the other day out of a board meeting, I guess, that you guys are looking for teams to play. Is it that desperate?
I don't think people understand the situation when every team that surrounds you is in a league. So let's look at football, for example. If you're in an 8-team league, that means your weeks 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are tied up in league games. So those leagues have no openings,
Right.
if you're following me.
Right.
So where do we find somebody to play those weeks if every team in Northeast Ohio is in a league? So that's the difficulty of it. Usually the first 3 weeks you can find games because there's independents out there, and
Right.
I would say 8-team leagues maybe the norm, so that those weeks 4 through 10 are full. So we have a difficult time 4 through 10. It's a good thing the NAC, it's the Northeastern Athletic Conference,
Right.
that is goes all the way over into Portage County and Trumbull and Mahoning County, has an odd number of football teams in it. They have 12 total teams, but they have 7 football teams. And the reason they're still sticking at 7 is because no one knows what the situation with Ledgemont is going to be, because Ledgemont has fallen down to about 100 students in the high
Is
school.
that right?
And they're in really bad financial shape, so they don't know if they'll be around. They think they'll be around next year, but the year after that is doubtful.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that.
So they might be consolidated, which would put them back to an even number. When they go back to an even number, again, we will not even have that option. So right now with the odd number, one of those teams has an opening weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we jump on them, and they're kind enough to let us schedule with them for football.
Explain to the folks out there, we've talked about this a little before, but explain to the folks what happened and why we're the odd man out here without a league to be a part of.
Well, it goes way back to, I believe, when Ashtabula and Harbor combined. That was 2 schools that were similar in size to Geneva, Edgewood, Conneaut, and Jefferson.
Yes.
And PV and Grand Valley were just slightly smaller than them. So it was a situation where competitively it was in balance. PV and GV were obviously smaller, and Ashtabula and Geneva were larger, but the majority of us were all in the middle. When they combined, made a very huge school. Not everybody stayed at Geneva. A huge number of those, at Ashtabula, a huge number of those kids open enrolled at Geneva for whatever reason. So now you've got 2 very large schools, Geneva and Ashtabula. And then you have Conneaut, Edgewood, Jefferson that are about the same size, and that puts PV and Grand Valley significantly smaller that they don't want to play Ashtabula and Geneva. So that one little trigger by those two schools combining has put this whole thing in motion. And now the school, instead of being Ashtabula County oriented with all those schools I just mentioned, now the schools are from the Chagrin Valley area or the Youngstown area. And we are by far on the fringe. They don't even want to come into Ashtabula County, either of them. But they had an opening, so they took Jefferson, and then they had one final opening, and they took Edgewood. And we've applied probably a half dozen times there. We've applied the same number of times to the NAC. We've applied the same number of times to the CVC. So it's a travel distance thing, but in my mind it's about kids, and I think our kids deserve the same opportunity as everyone else. So we're going to take the next step, and we're going to keep fighting to try to find a way to get in there.
Had another question that was sent in. Can St. John's qualify to play us, or Northwestern?
They both can play us.
Yeah.
Now, St. John's is not currently in the OHSAA. They withdrew from the OHSAA, which is Ohio High School Athletic Association, due to their numbers in enrollment. However, they are trying to get back in next year. However, I'm not even sure they have a complete football program now, because 2 years ago they combined with Grand River Academy. So Grand River Academy and PV had a dual team. I don't know what the status is of that right now.
Okay.
They could play us, yes.
Okay.
The issue with Northwestern is an interesting issue. The PIAA, which is the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, has had enough of this foolishness with the leagues. Same thing Ohio's going through right now, with everybody going here, there, moving. They said, all you guys in this region are now in this league that are the same size school. Are you familiar with, like, when the basketball team used to go to Madison for sectionals?
Oh, yeah.
There was 16 Division II teams at that Madison sectional. Okay. What PIAA said, you 16 teams are now in a league. You're all the same size and same region. So that's your league. So they reassign every few years their leagues over there, but they have a league to play for. So who knows if that'll be the way that Ohio has to go, but we're going to keep pushing our issue with the OHSAA and the legislation and see if we can get some relief. And I'm optimistic that good things will happen, but I'm also a realist in saying when you're in far northeast Ohio, you know your situation. It is what it is. We can't change our geography, so we just move forward and be as positive as we can and try to sell ourselves.
I know times change, things change, but in the past, in years past, travel wasn't a problem. I mean, at one time, Connie was in the Lake Shore League, and they came from Menor and Willoughby and Paynesville and everything. What changed that? I thinking that, oh, it's too far to travel. What's changed that?
Because apparently Connie has gotten further away from Menor over the years. I don't know, and you, but
yeah, really.
And you would think with I-90 the travel would be easier, right, than it was in those days.
That's the way I think. Yes.
I don't know. I'm speculating back into the 50s and 60s when we were in that league. But I think things have to do with Tuesday night, Wednesday night, girls athletics, middle school athletics. You don't want those kids out on school nights on an hour-and-a-half bus drive. And
we did that in the 60s. When I was in high school, we would travel on a bus. Now, you had a lot of basketball games that had to be, I think, there's two words that are used, postponed and canceled. Have any been canceled?
I should have brought Jim Campbell with me to tell me better. Tonight's game with, is it John Adams or John Marshall? We play one of the Cleveland schools.
Or is it Martin Luther King?
It's one of the Cleveland schools. My understanding, it has been postponed because they have a league commitment they have to make up tonight.
So there's no game tonight?
Last I heard was there was no game tonight. Now I will double check with that and make sure, but we are making that one up.
Okay. Okay. He said you got 10 home games in a row.
Yeah.
That's crazy because that's how the schedule with Independence worked. I mean, poor Coach Talbacco was playing Monday night in Eastlake North, and then Tuesday he has to come home and meet Geneva, and then Friday he has to play another.
Oh my God!
Because we don't have a Tuesday-Friday schedule with the league, so we're playing Independence all over the place.
Wow, wow. Well, at least you get yourself your basketball fix. But not tonight, maybe.
So you're not sure, but
I'm not sure
about tonight. But tomorrow, I think tomorrow night there is a game.
I think we
Jefferson,
are
is it?
boys and girls
Yeah.
play tomorrow against Jefferson. I believe one plays at Jefferson and one plays at home.
Wow. Let's take this call. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm curious what Mr. Houston's opinion is on the injection wells being near the schools.
Near the schools.
I think I have the same concerns everybody has. I was listening to the last section. I don't know where that waste is going. I don't know what's in that waste. Is it contaminated? And not only for the schools, but I live here as well. You know, I think everybody's got the same concerns.
I'd like to encourage the schools to write a letter to the ODNR, a resolution about the injection wells.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I also have another question. I wondered if he has read any information about how much the state is giving to, not Conneaut, but online schools. If he's read anything about like the ECOT, how much they're getting.
It's a frequent topic of conversation and frustration among every superintendent in Ohio when they take public tax dollars and put it into private for-profit educational entities like ECOT and charter schools and things like that. If you're asking for my professional opinion, I'm going to tell you this. I believe that the grandma next door to Conneaut High School that votes for our tax levies for our school, those tax dollars that she votes for should stay in Conneaut. I don't believe it's right that those tax dollars could end up at an ECOT facility, so I think our legislation that is allowing this is doing a disservice to local taxpayers. That is because...
Have you read how much they're giving to like ECOT? Are you well aware of all of this information? If not, I'd like to send it to you.
I have it all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's segue back to the calamity days. I know there's some other things you wanted to discuss.
You know, taking calamity days, like we've already talked, it is a heavyweight decision. Some people think it's very easy, but a lot of time and effort go into it, and a lot of people's opinions are put into these type of things. Right now, we're standing at 7 total calamity days, and we get 5. So as it stands right now, we have 2 makeup days. And at the beginning of every school year, the board, through resolution, must indicate when those makeup days are. So currently, our makeup days will be June 5th and June 6th.
Okay.
Now, we still have that legislation pending out there, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. However, there also is an Ohio Revised Code that seniors can have off 3 days before the end of the school year. So right now, graduation is currently on May 31st. Well, we already go the 4th and the 5th, and now if we add the 6th, we are talking 3 days off. There would be none of the special senior events before graduation because the choices are move graduation so they get the required number of days in for the year, or eliminate those special senior events so they get the number of instructional days in. Now, moving graduation opens up a whole nother set of issues because you've got parents and relatives coming in from out of town that have already scheduled this a year ago. So moving graduation is just a nightmare. So we've got these snow days have a lot of impact on you when you look at those type of things. Because on top of that, these days are after the state mandated testing, which is so critical. Those instructional days, I need them before we give the state mandated testing. They're less significant afterwards. But one thing the legislation has looked at and has passed is they are going to change next year school days from total number of days to hours.
Right. I need you to explain that. Before I do, I don't want to lose this thought, because I got a question that they wanted me to ask you. If these kids do not come into school on those mandated days that you're making up the classes, is there a penalty or
on the days we make them up?
And they don't show up?
I always wondered that too, because you know, kids are saying, heck with it, I'm not going to.
Okay, well, let's look at it in a couple of different contexts. If you're a senior and already graduated, and I say you have to come in 3
Right.
more days to fulfill your education requirements according to the state of Ohio.
What can you do?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we can all say what's probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, now the
Yeah.
younger kids, they're going to come because it's part of their grade. Seniors' grades are done, filled out, transcripts ready to go, college
Right.
applications, and I don't want to get into chasing kids down those last 3 days.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
so
Hopefully the parents will demand that they
cooperate.
cooperate.
the younger kids, the non-seniors, they'll be there.
Yeah.
The attendance will be good. Of course, you know, parents wait till school's out to take their vacations too, and there's another dynamic in there. It's really tough.
Sure.
That,
Sure.
these
I wouldn't want these headaches. This is terrible.
there's a reason why I don't get sleep on some nights, and I wake up and I have to write things down on my notepad to remember the next day.
I know
The
you
weather
do.
does, yeah.
Well, you can't. Now, big question the other day when we were having coffee about this new thing that's going to affect. They're asking me. I couldn't explain it. Next year, you go to hours. Explain that, would you please?
Okay. Well, currently the way let's say the Ohio Revised Code has it set up is we need 182 instructional days.
Okay.
In those 182 instructional days, you get 2 parent-teacher conferences, you get 2 in-service days, you get 5 calamity days. So that leaves you with actually 173 days of actual instruction where the kids are in class.
Right.
So that's 173 out of 182. So now what they're saying is we are going to go through what the operating standards through the state says grades K through 6 must have a minimum of 5 hours a day of instruction.
Okay.
Grades 7 through 12, which is our older kids, have to have 5.5 hours of instruction. So roughly, you get to count all the days you're in school converted to hours. So you still get to count your 2 days for parent-teacher conferences. You still get to count your 2 professional meetings. Also, I don't know if people realize that state mandates require 2 15-minute sessions of recess for kids K through 6. They can get that activity in a phys ed class or in a recess. Those hours count K through 6 because they're mandated. Also, high school seniors, the 3 days, they still count. Incoming kindergartners, we start them later and stagger them. Those 3 days count. So you're taking all the days you work, converting it to hours, and as long as you meet the 5 hours a day, which is a total of, for high school kids, 1,001 hours.
Okay.
Elementary kids, 910 hours. You can miss as much as you want as long as you don't go under that total number of hours. So a 2-hour delay, what's that do to you? It subtracts 2 hours away from your total year. As long as you're still above the 1,001, you're fine.
Yeah.
You could even go to a 3 or 4 hour delay if you wanted to. Would it make any sense? I don't know. But as long as you stay above the 1,001. Currently, you could not use a 3-hour delay because you would go under the 5.5 minimum hours
Per day.
required. Correct.
Okay.
So now it's all based on 1,001 hours. How many ever hours you have over 1,001, boom. Those are now your flexible hours you can use for calamity
Wow.
time. I am anticipating once we get the calendar done this year, it will be between 13 and 18-ish extra days. Now, if we do waiver days,
That would be equivalent.
right.
No kidding.
And that's what I'm anticipating. Don't hold me to that, and don't quote me in the paper on that because I have not done the calculations. You've got to subtract things like lunch. At the high school level, the time you go in between classes doesn't count, those 3 or 4
Right.
minutes that you change classes, that time before school, that time after school. It's instructional time.
Yeah.
So it's the time you sit, those 42 minutes you're in class for 8 periods a day. That's the time, that's the hours that count towards this. So that's just a rough guesstimation. So this should give superintendents some flexibility
Right.
in staff professional development. Right now we jump through hoops to the state to get a waiver day to do professional development. And I've been on here many times talking about the number of changes in legislation that schools are being forced to go through, that we need this professional development time just to try to stay up with what they're changing in Columbus. Now I don't have to go through the waiver day requirements and send in other things like this. I can use this flex time as needed. I'm calling it flex time. So that'll be something the board's discussing this month. Actually, one of the new mandates with this going from days to hours is we have a public hearing on our calendar. So we're currently putting together a draft of the calendar to present to the board, and we will advertise that there'll be the public will be able to come in and give us their opinions on things, and then we sit down and we figure out what the best thing to do is with the calendar. All that's now required by law.
Before I let you go, how's the Spark going to be looking this spring? Any new? Is the track, is that going to be open?
Well, currently we have. We are in the process of putting a 7-layer rubber system on the track. 2 layers are done.
Okay.
We've got 5 more layers of rubber to go. It cannot be applied in the wet, and it cannot be applied in less than 50-degree temperature.
Yeah, you're stuck there.
So you tell me when we can get the next 5 on and we'll get started.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So that is the holdup right now, is the weather. It came in bad in November
Early,
and
yeah.
cut us off early, and it's been really rough now. As soon as that weather breaks, they'll get out here and get started, and then it'll take another day or 2 to paint, and then we're ready to go.
Wow, that's excellent. Do they run track in the spring, or do they do it in the fall?
It's in the
Well,
spring.
In the spring.
They've actually started voluntary workouts right now. But that's how it is always in the winter.
Sure.
You can't get out on the track. But,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
if we get a break in the weather, we could have it done for this track season. If not, I can't tell you when.
Right.
Were there any home track meets scheduled?
We haven't had a home track meet since,
No, I know.
what would
I
you
mean,
say, 12 to 15
Oh,
years.
yeah.
I mean, with the new track and everything,
Our
was it
athletic
scheduled?
administrator, Jim Campbell, has held one date open for late in May
Oh,
that
okay.
we would like to have a celebratory kickoff relay
That'd be
event
cool.
at the track.
Inviting
but-
other schools.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice.
The issue is, are we going to have the weather to get it done?
Right.
So
Hopefully you
I
do.
can't-
Hopefully
I
this
can't
is going to
predict.
be going away pretty soon, I hope.
Oh, I hope so.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
How come they wouldn't consider taking like 2 months in the summer and 1 month in the winter off from school? I'll hang up and let you tell
Okay,
me.
thanks, Mary.
Bye-bye.
I've had that question mentioned before.
And it's economically, it's not a bad idea, because lots of schools have considered going to a 4-day week and extending into the summer. Like have a fall 9 weeks, a winter 9 weeks, a spring 9 weeks, and a summer 9 weeks. However, the legislation doesn't allow for a 4-day week, so which in turn throws that little bit of a wrench into where you're going to take those days and
Right.
put them in the middle of the year. I don't know if it's. I think it's an idea that has some merit, because the school year was created when it was an agricultural society because those kids needed to be putting the crops in the spring,
Right.
harvesting them in the fall, and we are still with that. That's 100 years old. So it does have some merit, and I would love to see the legislation consider it.
It would have to go through the state, though. You cannot throw anything like that into effect. It's governed. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What? Anything else, Kent, that's going on?
I was kind of excited yesterday to be back in the schools. The kids were,
Well, I bet.
I think,
Did
they
everybody
were-
go smooth?
Yeah, I think they were a little bit had cabin fever staying at home. I bet you some of the parents did too.
No, I
Well,
bet they did.
You should have
We're
read
happy to see
Facebook.
those kids
Yeah.
back at school.
You should read Facebook.
I'm afraid to read Facebook.
All these parents. When are these kids going back to school? They want to get rid of them.
And you know what? It brings a whole new appreciation to what teachers do day in and day out
Yep.
when they have whole groups of 25 to 30 of those kids in their
Sure.
classroom at once. So
Sure.
hats off to those teachers. The teachers were excited to be back. They
bet.
they were tired of all the time off.
Yeah.
They
I
were.
bet.
So right now it's got to be focused and drive them hard for the next 5 or 6 weeks to get ready for these mandated testing.
Well, hopefully we'll go smoothly. Come back and see us, Kent. With all
Always
the stuff
enjoy it.
going on, it's great when you come on and keep us informed.
And Ken has found out for sure there is no game
Oh,
tonight.
yeah,
that's
you better
right.
There is
clear
no
that up.
home game tonight. That has been postponed till February 20th.
Right.
February
Said.
20th, and
It's a
that's
Thursday.
Right.
What team is that?
Thursday. Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King's post.
But there is a game tomorrow night. Home boys versus Jefferson.
Jefferson and away girls versus
Jefferson,
Jefferson. So you
right.
have two choices of
There you go.
events,
That's
both
right.
at 5:30 because
Yeah.
these are remakes.
Yeah.
And Jefferson's still trying to fit in their league schedule, so this was the only time we could fit in an independent game.
Right.
So you got a
Back
chance,
to that.
got a chance to see a game tomorrow night.
Boys
Not
or
tonight,
girls,
though.
come out and support your Spartans.
That's right.
Hey, and
Not
our boys wrestling team is in a huge 2017 meet tonight and tomorrow in
Right.
Canfield.
Wow.
The East Ohio Wrestling League. It's an association of a bunch of schools from Ashtabula, Trumbull, Mahoney, and Columbiana that get together and put this tournament on each
Really?
year. So our kids do have a chance to be all league in
Really?
this if they place in this.
Good
So
luck to them.
it is nice that they have an opportunity to be in this association of wrestling schools.
Good for them.
Fantastic. A very good report this morning, Ken. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
anytime. I like coming on.
Maybe next month we can get together, okay?
Absolutely.